Let me give you some background on this before we talk about it. Rick Santos, New York Republican. Rare thing these days. Most true Republicans have left the state and are certainly not involving themselves in politics. Now, I don't know what's in his mind, but he ran as a conservative Republican, and that's what he was elected. The last Republican then held the seat, and it's been a purple seat. It's not really a true blue seat. It was Peter King's Republican from New York, old seat, and went back and forth, and there was some redistricting involved. I don't know much about the politics of Santos. He says all the right things. There's some questions about his background. There's no question that he misrepresented himself to get elected. I think we can all agree on that. But he was elected by the people of that district. This is not a senator. This is not a president. This is a very small group of people of one district. And not to lessen the value, of one district over another. It's just, you understand it. It's only going to be a couple 100,000 people at most that the guy's going to represent, or woman, whoever it is, whatever representative they are, no matter what state they are. That's the essence of the House of Representatives. A group of people, a small group of people with a like-minded interest, defined geographically, somewhat culturally because there's districting involved, but send a representative to Congress to say this is what ideas that we want to push forward at the federal level. That is what a House of Representatives is supposed to do. It's supposed to be the voice of the people. As originally designed, the Senate was supposed to be the voice of a state, to represent state interests, because they're often different than what the people want. The state has interests that involve federal matters. They're considered a little bit more grounded, a little bit more moderate, because they're representing all the districts in their state. They represent federal issues. That's really what the Senate's supposed to be. It's not. Not since the 17th Amendment. It's now a glorified House of Representatives. But it's different. Santos was accused of lying to his constituents in order to get elected. Okay. There are more significant accusations against Santos. They are in court. Accusations of misappropriation of funds, mismanagement of assets at the federal level. Whether they're true or not, a judge and a jury have to decide it. Evidence has to be presented. He has to present his defense in a court of law. These are all terms of the Fifth Amendment. And then at that time, when it's adjudicated, according to the rules of the House of Representatives, the House then has to act. Do we kick this person out? Do we censure them? If he's going to jail, do we remove him from office? That kind of thing. None of that happened in the case of Santos. His case has not been adjudicated in any court of law yet. They then took the time to do a separate investigation, which has not been made public, how that was handled, although the report is. And then decided on their own, as a body of other states and other interests, to decide what to do with Santos, and they expelled him from the House of Representatives. In other words, the people, the representatives of the people in Texas, West Virginia, New York, every other state, said to New York, you can't have that person represent you. That's what happened. The residents of California said to the people of New York in that district, you can't have Santos represent you. It's only happened 6 times in our 200 plus years of existence. 6 times. And 4 of them were insurrectionists during the Civil War. And the other 2 were convicted of crimes in a court of law first. In fact, there are even convicted people of crimes that are in Congress now. But Santos goes. The vast majority of people that wanted Santos to go were Democrats. 100% of the Democrats that didn't walk out of the room like Nancy Pelosi did voted to expel Santos. They're Democrats. We have an opportunity to get a seat in New York because we can flip it back blue. Okay, I get that. You want to trash the Constitution? You want to deny Santos' right under the Fifth Amendment to have his case heard in a court of law? Okay, you do that all the time. You're pieces of shit. You're going to throw him anytime you want, and throw the Constitution right under the bus anytime you want. You've done it before, you'll do it again. And you're going to do it again, I'm sure, next week or the week after. I get it. You don't care about anything but political power and your seat. That's what prevents the fact that there's a vote that requires 2/3 of the House to agree to remove a person of Senate. This is why it isn't done. This is why it doesn't work. Because it requires both parties, right? 2/3 majority, unless you have a 2/3 super majority in the House, which has happened as recently as 2022. So this is why it doesn't really happen often. And there are other people that have more sensibility than do this. A lot of Democrats, you just walk out. They just didn't want to go against the party. 105 Republicans sided with the Democrats in order to expel Santos. 105. The Democrats decide to wipe their ass with the Constitution, and 105 Republicans stood there and said, you missed the spot. 105. Right, he's guilty. How do you know? He didn't go to court. He didn't present the case yet. He hasn't been convicted of anything, just like Donald Trump. We're going to get rid of him because we don't like him. You're not one of us, not part of the team. A bunch of people sat in a smoke-filled room, decided Santos can't stay because he's not a member of the team. He's not wanted in our club. They blackballed him. They're running the House of Representatives like a private country club. Nope, Santos can't join because he didn't do what we wanted. He didn't behave the way we wanted. Oh, he lied. He lied. If we're going to base keeping a person in the House of Representatives based on the fact whether he lies or not, you got to get rid of 95% of Congress, for God's sakes. You talk about misappropriation of funds and all that. Well, those are criminal matters. You got to let a guy have a day in court. You got to let a jury decide. It's not for the purview of the people of West Virginia, Minnesota, or Washington, or whatever, to decide who represents the people of New York in his district. It's for the people of New York. And the remedy for the problem of Santos should come from the people. If they don't want him, they can recall him, and then there could be a special election. Or you could simply wait 12 months to the next election, for God's sakes. What was so damn urgent that you couldn't wait till the next election? All you do is you censure him. This is what we do with people who sleep with Chinese spies, Swalwell. This is what we do with people who support terrorists over a NATO ally, Rashida Tlaib. Why can't you do it with Santos? You censure him. You take them off the panels. You don't put them on any committees. You say, look, we're not going to have anything to do with you, but the people of New York have a right to say who they want for their representative. And it's not for you to decide, well, he misrepresented them. Well, then they can decide to get rid of him. It's called the recall. And now there's another problem. See, there's so many layers to this onion. I probably will talk about it again on Monday. There's another problem. Now, because he wasn't convicted of a crime, he was only accused of a crime, you can now remove any House of Representatives simply because you don't like him if you get a 2/3 vote. And if you don't think it's possible, they had a supermajority in Congress as late as 2022. In fact, in 1977, they had it for 2.5 years. The Democrats, if they get a supermajority again, or maybe the Republicans, because they're always screaming about Trump and Republicans being fascists, maybe if the Republicans got supermajority, they can all sit in a smoke-filled room and they can decide that all the Democrats, what's left, the last 1/3 could go take a hike. They could do it now because there's no precedent anymore. They could get rid of somebody simply because they don't like them, because there's accusations. If the Democrats get a supermajority in the House, they could all sit down and go, you know what, the Republican Party are secessionists and we're going to remove anyone from the Republican Party from Congress, and they can do it legally. Are you people maniacs? I'm serious. Are you insane? Look, you didn't want to even censure Rashida Tlaib. You didn't even want to censure Swalwell. You didn't want to censor any of these people. It's people who stand on the House floor and profess communism because of what I just said. Well, we don't want to keep people from their ideas. We don't want to eliminate people for political purposes because it sets a bad precedent, right? If you remove Tlaib, if you remove AOC, if you remove Swalwell, then anybody can just remove anybody for any political reason. You can just come up with an excuse. You accuse them of something, right? That made sense. I was on board with that. I sat here on this show and told you, not a good idea to remove Tlaib. Not a good idea to remove AOC. Not a good idea to remove Swalwell. Yeah, you can censure them, take them off the committees, but you have to let the people of their districts decide. Not anymore. If somebody just pisses off 2/3 of the majority, and you know the Democrats will, they'll simply say, you know what, all you Republicans, I mean, they're talking about Republicans. Jim Jordan, for instance, well, he's a secessionist. He's a seditionist. Donald Trump, they try to frame the crime on him. What makes you think once they get a supermajority, they outlaw the Republican Party? They can do it now, legally. And you have no recourse to stop them. Madmen. You idiots, you just blew up Congress. You just cut the throats of every congressman in that building. It's the same thing. They can legally vote in a tyranny. No Republican can run for office. It's party that's suggested that, democracy is threatened. We're doing this for democracy. Well, same thing the Nazis did in Germany. We got to do this for the fatherland. We got to eliminate all the Jewish people. And you 105 Republicans stood up and said, count me in. I'm in for that. Oh, that guy's no good. I don't care if he is or he isn't. That's for the people of New York to decide. See, this is what I'm talking about when I begin the show. They don't believe in anything. They don't believe in the Republican Party. They don't believe in conservatism. They don't believe in the principles of it. They don't believe that you have a right to decide for yourselves. And they don't trust the election process itself. They don't. They don't trust the electorate. They don't want to let people govern themselves. They want to govern other people. What did the Democrats say when Obama became president? We can't wait to rule. They said that to our faces. And what's going to happen next? John Fetterman came out. And he, sure enough, stroke, brain damaged, addled, says, you know what? Now that we got rid of Santos, we should get rid of that congressman from Egypt. That's how he referred to it. I believe it was Rashida Tlaib he was referred to. And everyone's like applauding. Oh, John Fetterman's right. No, you idiot. They gave it to him to say because everyone would immediately discount him as mentally ill and brain damaged. But that's what they want. Maybe they might have to sacrifice Tlaib on the end of it, but you know what? They're going to get rid of all the Republicans if they get a chance. And all the people barking like seals. Reign of terror. It's exactly what happened in France. Exactly. Not like it. Exactly. People were standing up and saying, well, that guy's a Jacobite. We got to get rid of him. Chop off his head. This guy's a royalist. We got to chop off his head. They executed, I don't know how many colonels in the military at the time of the Reign of Terror. Robespierre did. Because why? Well, because the colonels were loyal to the king. And they were royalists and executed them all. Well, I'm not saying they're going to execute, but man, you don't think that if they had a 2/3 majority in the House, they wouldn't push every Republican down that step if they could? You don't think they would? You bet they will. I got news for you. This whole impeach this guy, lock this guy up narrative, lock him up, lock that guy up, I warned you about this. I said to you on this show that if you start down this path, everyone's going to end up in jail. That's what's going to happen. You're going to decimate the leadership in this country. You just push Congress down the steps. They're going to do it. And it won't happen all at once. They're too smart for that. They'll take these 5 guys, that 4 guys, this group of 3. And then you'll wake up one day. The Democrats will be in charge. A loaf of bread will be $15. And there'll be guys with machine guns on the streets. And you're going to scratch your head and go, how did we get here? This is how. You morons. You maniacs. You train wrecked the country with this move. Maybe not now. Maybe next week. Maybe next month. Maybe next year. I don't know, but it's coming. Just like I said when you started to go down this route of impeaching President Trump. I said, you maniacs, you're trying to impeach him because you don't like the way he's running things. It's going to end up badly. Now we're talking about impeaching Biden. We removed Santos from Congress. You're talking about the senator from Egypt, as John Fetterman says. You're going to start eliminating everybody. Just like they did in the Reign of Terror. Same thing. Although they had the guillotine back then, they were a little bit more final about their decisions. But you're going to have everybody just locking everybody up. Oh, that's what we got to do. Those guys broke the law. We got to lock them up. Like, just don't elect them to office. Problem solved. How much influence has Hillary Clinton had since she lost the election in 2016? Absolutely none. She goes around speaking, making money, talking in her oven mitt about how terrible things are, but nobody pays attention to her. That's how you beat them. You just throw them out of power. You don't need to lock them up. You don't need to put them on the guillotine because it takes you to places where you don't want to be. And now we're going there. We're going there. Santos is just the tip of the iceberg, folks. And you know, here's the thing that boggles my mind. Here's the thing that bothers me the most, believe it or not. Santos comes out, right? I don't know anything about him. He didn't represent me. I don't know his politics. I know he ran as a Republican. But he always says the right things. You know what he said? You just murdered Congress. He's fucking right. I mean, say what you will about him lying about his background or whatever he did with money or so-and-so's credit card, whatever nonsense they've come up with, whether it's true or not, he's right. He says the right things. Sure talks like a real conservative should be talking. He sure says the right things. Like Donald Trump. Oh, I got a lot of issues with Trump. Right? I do. But he always says the right things. At least that's some. At least his mind's in the right place, right? Talks about border security, talks about national defense. He was able to deal with our enemies. Okay, I can live with all the little peccadillos on Twitter and the ego, the monstrous ego. I can deal with it. I can live with it because he's doing the right, at least he's saying the right things. Yeah, he didn't get the wall built, but that was a lot because Congress wouldn't let him. Santos sure says the right things. You know what? I'm going to talk about this on Monday again because there's another layer of this onion you haven't heard yet. Let's take a break. And I'm going to break this segment out on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter. People need to hear it. You just murdered Congress. We'll be right back after this brief but important announcement.